Welcome! So in this video, you're going to learn about the financial system. So let's have the definition of terms. First, we have the financial markets. So these are organized forums in which the suppliers and users of various types of funds can make transactions directly. Second, we have financial institutions. There are intermediaries that channel the saving of individuals, business, and governments into loans or investments. We also have private placements, the sale of the new security directly to an investor or group of investors. We also have public offering, so the sale of each bond or stocks to the general public. And last is we have the financial instrument. So the financial instrument is a real or a virtual document representing a legal agreement involving some sort of monetary value. So this can be debt securities like corporate bonds or equity like shares of stock. So you can see the financial system. So the solid line represents the flow of cash funds, while the broken lines or represents the flow of financial instrument, which represent the obligation to transfer cash or other assets in the future. So as you can see, the financial system that we have, if we start with a saver or supplier of funds, they could buy on financial markets and these financial markets will make a loan to those who needs the funds or the user or the demander of funds. Okay, that's one cycle. You can also start from the saver suppliers to directly with the private placement or the sale of a new security directly to the user or demander of funds. Pwede rin si user or demander of funds. Ayan, ito, pataas. Pupunta kay financial institution. Kung kailangan niya ng pera, mangungutang siya sa financial institution. Si financial institution, gagamitin ito, yung kay saver or supplier ng funds. Pwede rin naman si financial institution, kagaya ng mga insurance company, yung financial institution yon, yung mga investment na meron, si user or demanders is ipabibili niya sa financial markets para umikot yung pera, or it can go vice versa. So, what are the financial instruments? But before we move on to the financial instrument. The transaction between suppliers and users of funds take place through verbal agreement or written agreement. So it is also a way to prove that there was a transaction to the demander that they would pay or repay the supplier on the time and the right amount. Because due to the increased need of the security for the performance of obligation arising from this transaction and due to growing size of the financial system, the transfer of funds from one party to another party are made through financial instruments. So this financial instruments is issued, so it gives rise to a financial asset on one hand and a financial liability or equity instrument on the other. Pag sinabi natin financial instrument, pwede siyang cash, pwede siyang equity instrument of another entity, pwede siyang contractual right to receive cash or another financial asset from another entity, pwede din siyang contractual right to exchange instrument with another entity under conditions that are potentially favorable. So, ang mga examples ng financial instrument na pwede nating gamitin or pwedeng gamitin ni user or ni demander or ni saver are the following. First is the note receivable. We have loans receivable, the investment in stocks, and the investment in bonds. So, a financial liability is any liability that is contractual in obligation. So, it is used to deliver cash or other financial instrument to another entity. It is used to exchange financial instrument with another entity under conditions that are potentially unfavorable. So the examples are notes payable, loans payable, and bonds payable. Ito yung mga instrument na pwede nilang gamitin as assurance na kung manghihiram or magpapairam sila ng pera. We also have equity instrument or yung mga or the contract that evidences a residual interest in assets of an entity after deducting all liabilities, kagaya ng ordinary share capital and preference share capital. And sino ang kumahawak ng financial asset? Of course, the suppliers of funds. And the makers of financial liabilities and equity instruments are the users of funds. So when companies are in need of funding, they either sell debt securities or equity instrument. So sa financial system, ito yung kung paano kumikita yung iba't ibang financial institution, paano kumikita si financial markets. So in terms of the savers and the suppliers. So investors buy debt securities of equity instrument in hopes of receiving returns through interest, dividend income, or appreciation in financial asset price. So ano-ano yung mga debt and equity instrument na pwede nating gamitin? So, una, yung treasury bond at treasury bills na ito ay ini-issue ng Philippine government with usually low interest rates and have very low risk of default since the government assures that this will be paid. So, ito yung hiniram ng government ng Philippines sa mga private institutions. You can also have corporate bonds that is issued by publicly listed companies. Pero this time, since company to company yung bond, it has higher risk. So these bonds are not risk-free. Ibig sabihin, pwede kang merong corporate bonds, pero pwedeng mawalan siya ng value pag nalugi si company. We can also have equity instrument. Ibig sabihin, ito yung mga pagmamay-ari naman ng isang tao or ng isang user or demander or supplier of funds. So, meron siyang pwedeng preferred stock. So, preferred stock, so it has a priority over a common stock in terms of claims over the assets of the company. This means that the company were to liquidate it and its assets have to be distributed. So no asset will be distributed to common stockholders unless all the claims of the preferred stockholders have been given. So kapag sinabi natin, you are a preferred stockholder, sila yung more na nagpa-buy and sell ng shares nila pagdating sa company. Kaya sila yung priority kasi wala silang directly connection sa business. So, anytime, pwede silang umalis ng business. Kaya sila yung priority para ma-separate yung interest na ibenta nila yung shares nila. So, pag sinabi naman natin common stockholders, sila naman yung mga stockholders under pa rin ng equity instrument na tunay na may-ari ng business. Na kaya sila yung last priority kasi kumbaga sila yung may pakialam talaga dun sa business. Kasama sila dun sa board of directors. Okay? Dahil kapag kaya naman sila yung late kasi once na nag-expand si business, si preferred stockholders walang makukuhang share. Pero si common stockholders, since sila yung real owners ng business, 'di ba? Once na nag-expand si business, sila yung makikinabang doon. Kaya sila dapat yung late na mag-benefit kapag may dividends. So, the most appealing will be more discussed on lesson 4, the sources and uses of funds, and lesson 5, the introduction on investment. So, pagdating natin sa financial markets, so, pag sinabi natin financial markets, they are organized forum in which the suppliers and the users of various types of funds can make transaction directly. Ibig sabihin, ang trabaho nila is yung mga tinatawag nating mga broker. So, pag sinabi nating broker, sila yung nag-a-assist sa isang tao or sa isang business para makabili ng shares na merong primary and secondary markets. Na kapag sinabi natin primary markets, the financial market in which securities are initially issued. So, the only market in which the issuer is directly involved in the transaction. Sila yung, pag sinabi ng primary market, sila yung main market. Sila yung main organization na nagsusupply ng fund. So, their duty is to raise money. So, users of fund will go to a primary market to issue new securities through a public offering or a private placement. So, the sale of the new securities to the general public is referred to as a public offering. So, pag sinabi natin primary market, once na si business nag-open ng slot for shareholders, ang tawag nila doon is public offering na pwedeng bonds or stocks. So, the sale of the new security to one investor or group of investors is referred to as private placement. Kapag sinabi naman natin private placement, it is the sale of the new security directly to an investor or group of investors. However, the funds of the holders of the securities may decide to sell the securities that have previously been purchased. So, the sale of previously owned securities takes place in secondary markets. So, pag secondary market naman, they are financial market in which pre-owned securities. Kumbaga, second hand, ito yung ginagamit for trading. So, primary market is yung first owner. Kapag ikaw na yung second and so third and so on or owner, ang tawag na doon is pang second market. So, the Philippine Stock Exchange is both primary and secondary market. Now, meron din tayong tinatawag na money market and capital market. So, pag sinabi natin money market, they are financial relationship created between suppliers and users of short-term fund. Capital market is a market that enables suppliers and users of a long-term funds to make transactions. Kapag short-term funds ang kailangan, money market. Because kaya tinatawag na money market kasi mabilis siyang bilhin at mabilis siyang ibenta. Kapag sinabi natin capital market, parang nagiging part ka ng company. Kasi nagkakaroon ka ng long-term funds and transaction. So, money markets are venue wherein securities with short-term maturities are sold. So, they are created because some individuals have temporarily idle funds that they wish to invest in a relatively safe, interest-bearing asset. At the same time, other individuals find themselves in need of a seasonal or temporary financing. So, once na money market, ito yung kagaya ng ginagawa nyo ngayon sa Instagrams. So, that is money market. Pero kapag capital markets, ito yung sinabi ko sa nakaraan, na kapag nag-birthday kayo, i-invest nyo. Nagiging capital market yon. Kasi kukunin yon after certain period of year pa. So, long term siya. Nagkakaroon ka ng ownership. Now, let's talk about financial institution. Sinabing financial institution, ito yung sinasabi ko kaninang mga investment company, yung Pro-Life, Sun Life, pwede rin St. Peter's, and so on. Na kung saan, pwede siyang commercial banks. Di ba pag nagtabi kayo ng pera sa bangko, paano sila kumikita? Ang ginagawa ng bangko, it's either pinapautang nila or pinabibili nila ng stocks para kumita si commercial bank. Another financial institution is the insurance companies. So, ito yung pagbawa. Sa aksidente ka, magkakaroon ka ng 1 milyon, and so on. So, para mag-circulate yung pera mo, ganun din ang ginagawa nila. Ini-invest naman nila. So, merong mga insurance company na insured ka lang, pero merong mga insurance company na insured ka na, at the same time, ini-invest nila yung pera mo para after 10 years, 15, 20 years, kumikita ka. Meron din tayong tinatawag na mutual funds. So, mutual funds are owned by investment companies which enable small investors to enjoy the benefit of investing in a diversified portfolio of securities purchased on their behalf by professional investment managers. So, ito yung mga broker. Magkakaroon ka ng mutual funds. So, kung wala kang alam, mag-share kayo ng iba't ibang tao kahit hindi mo kakilala sa isang fund. Tapos yun yung pag-i-invest ng isang professional para maging shareholder kayo ng isang company. So, mutual funds po ang tawag doon. Meron din tayong tinatawag na pension funds. Yan, yung mga SSS. Sa other financial institution pala yon. Pero yung pag sinabi natin pension funds, ito yung pero parang parehas lang siya ng other financial institution. Kasi kapag sinabi natin pension funds, payments from employees and invest the proceeds on their behalf. So, ito yung halimbawa, nag-resign, di ba? Nakaka-receive ng pension. Halimbawa, yung mga sundalo, di ba? Nag-early retirement, nakaka-receive sila ng pensions or payment because of pwedeng disability and so on. So, meron din other financial institution sa government. Ayan. GSIS pag public. SSS kapag in general. Unit Investment Trust Fund, investment banks, and credit unions among others. So, yan yung mga financial institution. Sila yung nagpapaikot ng pera ng user or ng demander na means of investments. So, sa pag-ikot niyan, makikita natin dito, we have the individuals kung saan you have, as individual investor, you have two option. Pwede kang mag-deposit sa bangko ng pera or other depository institution. Tapos, pwede niyang ipa-out sa commercial bank, ipapautang niya sa business, kikita ka. Pero mas maliit yung percentage mo, mas malaki na ikita ni commercial bank. Or pwede niyang ibili din ng debt securities or ng mga bonds sa business. Or pwede ka rin pumili ng share in a means of mutual funds. So may share kayo dyan sa isang business. Ngayon, policy holders, sila yung may mga premiums sa mga insurance companies, employees and employers, nagbabayad sila sa pension fund. Yung pension funds, ini-invest lang din sa business. Kasi business, malaki ang role niya pagdating sa economy. So, the role of financial managers to make financing decisions that require funding from investors in the financial market. Ang role naman ng financial market is that the financial markets provide a forum in which firms can issue securities to obtain the funds that they need and in which investors can purchase securities to invest their funds. And the role of investor is to provide the funds that are to be used by financial managers to finance a corporate group. So that's all for the lesson of the financial system.